Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which we learn what is right, what is wrong, and how wrong can sometimes be fun. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dog Cat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Truckerific Thursday. Hope you're all doing well this evening, this Thursday evening. Oh, it's been a week, almost, as of tomorrow. For those of you that have Monday off for President's Day, I hope you enjoy it. For those of you that don't, well, I hope you have a good Monday. I'm just getting that out of the way ahead of time. So a couple things. First and foremost, I changed some settings on my microphone. I have no idea what that will do to the recording volume of the broadcast. So if I'm ridiculously loud right now, please let me know as we proceed, and I will try to adjust that. It's just that whenever I listen to these things occasionally back on my television, because I can do that and I can watch myself on TV, the sound of my voice always seems a lot more muted than the sound of the video we're watching. And I kept thinking, is something wrong with my microphone? So I've fiddled with the settings. So if that's too much, let me know. But before we get into all that, who is joining me this evening on this wonderful Thursday evening? Jaeger Pony, hello. Point Curation, hello. I'll get to you in a minute here. Thank you so much. Keeverdam, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Tony Giff, hello. Kyle Mack, hello. Evil One, hello. And then the chat jumped because, of course, it did. Gwen Plain, hello. Bridget, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. Patrice Ripley, hello. Pie Guy 07, hello. Let's see. Megan Ring, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. Tony Giff, hello. Eric Peters, hello. This is Kyle, hello. Oh my gosh, so many people. Spud Gun, hello. All right. Now I got a whole bunch of super chats already. Thank you guys so much. Point Curation, thank you. Multiple thank yous. Assert moral autonomy. You and I are morally autonomous from one another, from our family, friends, villains, and heroes. This is true, conceivably. Again, from Point, respect your neighbor. Thank you for being mine. Well, thank you for being mine, neighbor. Like a good neighbor, Point Curation's there. Something. Point Curation again, thank you. Support neighbors in need. Consider the GoFundMes. Yes, the GoFundMes, which Keeverdam, of course, has studiously posted for us. I'll put that at the top of the chat box for people to look at. Shady Grin and his kitten, both friends of the show. They or their loved ones are currently in need of assistance. So if you have a moment, please take a look at those GoFundMes. And if you have a buck or two to spare, please consider doing so. Thank you so much. Attack Alpaca, thank you so much for the Dog Cat Fox. Oh, Dog Cat Fox.
Wowie, wow.
Oh, what a Dog Cat Fox. And thank you. This is Kyle. Hello, chat people and scribbles. Hello, Kyle. Hope you're doing good. All right, so I have a whole kind of preamble thing to talk about before we get into the show, because this is a philosophical question. I don't usually do TEDx's that ask these broad philosophical questions, and I feel obligated to at least provide my baseline thoughts to the question before I get into the whatever rhetorical debate this ends up being with our speaker. I don't know if it'll be a debate, but you know how these things go. So the question on our minds this evening in TED Excellence is, can you be too moral? All right, now to predicate everything, I took a couple of classes in philosophy in college, but I am no philosopher by trade. So I cannot quote you Aristotle or Plato. I cannot wax philosophical on the Ten Commandments or Hammurabi's Code. So I won't be able to do any of that stuff or making those kind of comparisons. If there are some theories that have names to them that I allude to in my speaking and everything that I should be saying, but I'm not, that's why. I'm kind of dumb when it comes to the book learning of philosophy. But that being said, can you be too moral? Yes, you can be. It all depends, of course, on your code of morality. Any religion, and I would even go so far as to say a otherwise benign religion, like say Jainism, where pacificity and harmlessness and everything has a soul, etc. You could take that to the extreme and do yourself some harm, if not somebody else. So in that sense, zealotry of any kind on just about anything is probably not healthy. But it also depends on, again, how do you define morals? I think human beings all share a common sense of morality in the sense of cooperation. Okay. We as a species would not have reached where we are in our various civilizations without a at least pragmatic understanding of the need of cooperation, the need to come to an accord with other people to get on in life. That's a kind of morality. That's a kind of empathy. And speaking of empathy, there's also the golden rule. Don't do unto others as you would not have them do unto you, etc. So I think there is even if we're going to be talking about specific moral codes, I think that we all share, at least, or have the capacity to share certain common moral codes. Can you take those to the extreme? Probably. But I suppose we'll find out what our speaker has to say on the subject in a moment. But before I get there, a couple more hellos. Lexi Mads, we can begin now. Hello. And is that Spittlebuggies, Sheldy, Nathaniel Taylor, Resolute Germ, Eric Peters, It's a Llama, Lambert Talamantes, or Lambert Talamonte. Lambert, the sheepish lion, Lambert. Okay, anyway, I'm getting off track. Okay, bingo card for the evening is bingo card C. C is decided by those of you that voted in the Twitter poll. If you would like to join in on the Twitter poll once a week to choose the bingo card, well, you can follow me on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle there in the bottom corner, or you can find it in the description below. And the bingo card links are as well in the description below. So get your bingo card C ready, and we will keep track as we go. So the question on our minds, can you be too moral? I'll start off with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed. Okay, you guys hear all the applause there? Let me know in the chat real quick. Let's see. Spudgun, Scribelight, morality isn't religious. But some moral standards are based around religion. It depends. Morality by itself, no, but it depends on how you define morality. What is moral, what is not? So that's sort of the boundaries on which we're operating, or could be operating. I don't know. I assume he'll bring up religion. I don't know, but I think that's probably an unavoidable consideration. All right. Everybody hears it? Here we go.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So if you read the news or you spend any time on social media...
Do I read the news or spend... no, not really.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that there's a lack of morality in the world today.
Yeah, well, have you seen what some people will say about another if they don't agree with them lately? Yeah.
There's certainly no shortage of really serious social and moral problems that we face.
Yes.
There are people who are discriminated against based on just the color of their skin.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
There are women who don't feel safe in their own homes or their workplace. There are 500 million children around the world who don't have access to clean water.
Uh-huh.
And there are entire industries that cause untold suffering to animals.
Yeah.
We're developing new technologies like artificial intelligence to produce autonomous weapons, and people receive death threats for expressing themselves online.
All of these things in one way, shape, or form are true. Yes.
I think from this, it'd be really easy to conclude that if only people had stronger moral convictions, the world would be a better place.
Yeah, except that it's opposing moral convictions that often cause all the problems in the first place, right?
I'm not convinced. Now, this might sound strange coming from a moral philosopher, but I think a lot of the time the problem that we face is not that there is too little morality, it's that there's too much.
Okay. Oh, it's just as with every TEDx, okay, that is the problem as stated. I'm very curious to know what his proposed solutions might be.
Particularly moral certainty.
Okay, certitude, moral certainty. I mean, okay, yeah, allowing for the possibility you could be wrong. that is something that more people should practice. Not that you spend your entire life second guessing every move you make, but at least when it comes to certain things and certain interactions, you at least open yourself up to the possibility of there being an opposing argument that might convince you to change your mind. That's all. If more people did that, we might be in a better place by degrees.
Because the most dangerous people in the world are not those with weak moral convictions. They are those who have the strongest moral convictions. These are the ones who see the world in black and white, good versus evil. They're the ones who are willing to fight and to kill and to die to bring about their vision of utopia.
Yes, as I said, yeah, extremism of any particular kind is rarely good for anybody on anything. Yes, okay, so I guess I'm with him so far, but always remember the best Trojan horses come at the beginning of an argument.
So I haven't given up entirely on morality quite yet. That would be a pretty weird talk for a philosopher to come out here and say we should abandon it. Morality is still super important. It sits at the heart of ethics.
Yes.
It helps us decide the difference between right and wrong. What I am worried about is how morality can inspire black and white thinking.
Okay, before we get too deep into this anymore, and this is a different TEDx than I usually do, so I don't know if we'll get a bingo tonight, but let's go over the card real quick just to remind ourselves of what we're looking for and or listening for, or mostly listening for. Plays victim, leaves out vital context. We'll see. Weightless example. We'll see if he gives us any. Anecdote that probably never happened. Benevolent condescension. He's a philosophy professor, so probably at some point. Self-vilification or wretchedness. I'd be surprised. Feminism. Childhood or family anecdote. Privilege. Sales pitch for product or service. Has to be something fairly specific. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. Patriarchy. Wage gap. Mind reading assumes motives. I think that might be part and parcel with just being a philosopher. So we might get that just as a matter of course, but we'll see. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, possible. Word salad, well, it is a philosophy professor. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Marginalized, marginalization. Contradicts own point or argument. That's the one I'm going to be looking out for. Systemic, institutional, a list. It has to be an official list, like he actually has, here's 5 points, or here's a PowerPoint card with bullet points on it. White supremacy, make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, or in general a non sequitur in relation to his argument or subject, and collectivize his own demographic. All right, so we haven't had any of those yet, as far as I can tell, but just to keep ourselves on the lookout.
And we're all prone to this, not just the extremists. Mm-hmm. To show you what I mean, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Is it wrong to murder someone just because you don't like the look of their face?
Yes.
All right. I'm really hoping you're going to say it is wrong. And I'm going to agree with you there. And the reason I ask is because when we look at why, it can help us understand a little bit about how we think about morality. Because when we say it's wrong, it's not a matter of personal preference. It's not a matter of like, I just prefer not to murder, but I'm all right if you do. We kind of want to say that it's wrong for all people at all times, right? It's not just a subjective thing like chocolate or strawberry, murder or not murder. It's something that's objective, right? It's just true that you shouldn't murder people for silly reasons.
Well, yes, that is true. But motive and rationale always come down to the individual. And that's why we have trials that we spend so much time at, trying to determine motive when it comes to, murder, self-defense, and so on. So silly reason, all depends. You said specifically, I don't like the look of your face. Yes, that is not a justification for murder in, I think, most people's minds. Sure. But, one man's silly reason could be someone else's moral conviction. Right?
And when someone doesn't get that, when someone disagrees with us, it's tempting to say they're not just mistaken. There must be something wrong with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's something they don't fundamentally understand. They're immoral people.
Immoral, psychologically damaged, something, sure.
This is the kind of black and white thinking that comes very naturally to us. And it's not a big deal when it comes to the easy moral problems like murdering for silly reasons.
Wait. It's not black and white, okay? Let's keep something in mind real quick, okay? There's mens rea, actus reus. I think that's it, right? Yeah. There's the actual act, like murder, like killing someone, the taking of a life. Okay. That may or may not be justified. Where was the person's mind at? You see, just saying murder or taking someone's life, it's not necessarily inherently morally wrong. You have to tell us why and the circumstances. It's not black and white. There is a gradient, and that's the whole motive behind it. So, yeah, it's okay.
But it is a problem when it comes to the difficult moral problems. And that's, basically all of them, particularly the moral problems that we are facing today. So this black and white thinking, it can stifle our ability to engage with other moral perspectives.
Okay. Again, his example, okay, and again, I'm not being a philosopher, maybe I'm off base, but the example of calling, murdering somebody, quote unquote, for silly reasons, I mean, we cannot just say with one without considering the other. So it's not black and white because there's a second level of consideration there. So him saying that it's a black and white thinking is like, I mean, in that specific instance, yes, it is a black and white notion. Killing somebody because you don't like the look of their face, yeah, that specific example, most people would say that is wrong. There's no gradient there. That specific thing is wrong. But just murder, quote unquote, for silly reasons, that's when you have to get specific again. It's not black and white.
It can lock us into our moral views. Whatever we grew up with, we carry with through our lives.
Yeah.
It can create a huge amount of inflexibility.
Could be.
It can create more conflict than it solves. And we end up with these really big, important debates that just go nowhere. Left versus right, science versus anti-vaxxers, free speech versus cancel culture.
Yeah. Science versus anti-vax. Well, it's true. Yeah, that is far too black and white, especially the titles involved. But yeah, okay, I'll give you on that one.
This is why I think it's so important that we change the way we think about morality.
Okay.
That we get away from this black and white thinking.
I don't know where you're going. Thank you, Cryptic. I've seen women in stretch pants that fit fat women better than this dumb analogy. Again, and for those of you coming in late, I just want to caution. I am not a philosopher. I'm sure there's far more informed and educated people in the audience right now who have a better understanding of these mechanisms than I do. But already I'm finding too big of question marks in my head as I follow along with this train of thought. So I'm curious to see where he's going. Okay, how should we rethink morality? I mean, I know that there are probably a lot of people out there who do think in very black and white terms, my way or the highway, right? We know lots of people like that, especially on the internet these days. If you don't agree with me, you're evil. If you think differently about politics, you're a bad person, and so on. I see this every day on Twitter. Do I think that represents everyone? Do I think that represents even the people I read saying it if I actually sat down and talked with them? No, not necessarily. But okay, let's proceed.
And we start to take a more nuanced view of right and wrong.
How so?
Sounds easy, right?
No, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Of course it's not.
Yeah.
Turns out it's actually in our nature to think about morality this way.
Uh-huh.
So as a philosopher,
yes,
I've been really interested in the story of like where morality came from and how we evolved from being a bunch of pretty antisocial apes only a few million years ago.
Whoa. Antisocial apes? Okay. No. Have you ever seen ape behavior? It's not antisocial. I mean, you could have conflicts between different, groups and families, but amongst themselves, they care for their young. They have a hierarchy. They mourn when a loved one dies. They're not antisocial. If that's where you're starting, we're already off base.
To become the massively social, massive cooperative species that we are today. I can guarantee you no other species of primate would be sitting here so politely and attentively right now.
It's a matter of degrees and development. But a family of chimpanzees, they express the same kinds of socialization mechanisms that we do as humans. It might be microcosm, but it's not all that different ultimately. Antisocial. I'm sorry, that really just, that statement bugs me.
And evolution plays a key role in this story. Evolution didn't just shape our bodies, giving us like opposable thumbs and an upright stance. It also shaped our minds.
You don't say.
It made us smarter. It gave us language. We evolved the capacity for empathy, so we care about those who are close to us.
Apes care about those who are close to them too. Empathy is... You can find empathy expressed in some of the most quote-unquote dumb creatures on the planet. That's not a unique evolutionary event for human beings. It might be expressed differently. It might be more nuanced than, your average bird or something. But okay, and I, because I have to defer to the possibility that I might be wrong. Chat, am I off base? Let me know either now or as we proceed.
We evolved outrage so that we are inspired to punish wrongdoers. We evolved the ability to create moral rules.
I'm sorry to keep pausing, but exiling a wrongdoer is not a unique element of human civilization. Punishing someone who has misbehaved amongst the group, the tribe, the whatever, is not unique to human civilization. What are you talking about? I can't keep following along with you when you're saying things that I know are demonstrably untrue. It really makes me question as to where you're leading me. All right, backing up a bit.
So that we are inspired to punish wrongdoers. We evolved the ability to create moral rules so an entire community can keep the peace. However, anyone who studies evolution will tell you that evolution doesn't always optimize. It often takes shortcuts, cuts corners. Remember I said, and we have an upright stance? We'll ask anyone over the age of 40 about their knees and their lower back to know that evolution doesn't always nail these things. And the shortcut that it took around the way we think about morality is by co-opting the way that we see the world. Let me give you an example.
Well, I love examples, but evolution provided us the capacity to ponder these things and to evaluate these things. Evolution on its own did not do that. That's why we have things like philosophy. That isn't a result of evolution all by itself. That's a result of our capacity to evolve our way of thinking and to ponder things beyond ourselves. So if that's what you mean, is that evolution led us to have the ability to think beyond the basics, then okay. But we do not have our sense of morality. We have not gained our perspective on right or wrong purely on the basis of biological evolution. Unless I'm missing something.
So when you look at a strawberry, what do you see?
I don't know. What do I see? Is this one of those like cigar things? Are we doing some Freud stuff?
You're going to see a bright, vibrant color.
Unless I'm colorblind.
If you're not colorblind...
I swear to God, I have not watched this ahead of time. Okay.
Vibrant color.
Yeah.
If you're not colorblind, that color is going to be red. When you bite into it, what are you going to experience? You're going to get a burst of flavor, a burst of sweetness. The thing is, that color, that redness, that sweetness, it's not built into the strawberry. Strawberry is just a bunch of chemicals arranged in a certain way. It's our eyes and our taste buds that interpret those chemicals as sweet or as red. And our mind tricks us into thinking that these are features of the strawberry, not something that actually came from us.
Why do I get the feeling that I'm being led towards a very odd interpretation? Okay. What that reminded me of actually is an episode of the show Homicide, Life on the Street from the 90s. There is there's an episode, I think it's in like the second season, I want to say. I won't give it away completely, but at the very beginning of the episode, two of the police officers on their way to a crime scene are sort of debating stuff. And one guy says, what you see as green might not be green to me. Like your green could be red to me, but I wouldn't know any different. I'd just say that's green. You see green and I see what you would see as red, or I see as red and you see as green, And so, our perspectives are all, sort of a belief system. They kind of go off on this. And that's how the episode starts. And then it's never brought up again until the very end of the episode, where we have a character who has done something ridiculously morally ambiguous. And he's at home and he's sitting there with his family member and they're watching television. And this is back in the days where you had to actually manually adjust your television. And they're sitting there and our morally ambiguous character says, hey, could you adjust the tint on the TV? There's a little bit too much green. And it's just this sort of like poetic, mirroring, echoing kind of thing. And so that's what I think of when he says this. It's like, yes, our individual perspectives and interpretations of things might be off one to another, and we wouldn't know it necessarily. But
so philosophers like David Hume have called this projectivism, because we project our subjective experiences onto the world.
To a degree, yes.
And we see them as being objective features of the world.
To a degree, yes.
We do this in all sorts of different contexts where we mistake the subjective for the objective, and it creates all sorts of debates around art and music, or Marvel versus DC, or that ever-vexed question of whether pineapple belongs on a pizza.
Ha, 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 ha. Yeah, except that only if you lived in a vacuum with no other interactions, no other opinions, no other people, no other insights on anything, would that be the case. But there's a certain level of the deterioration of that projection the more you interact with the world. I mean, you may say, and for all I know, in your heart of hearts, you might be right, that this thing is this way and it shall be. But the second you meet somebody who either also doesn't like asparagus or someone who loves the taste of asparagus, you might get the notion that everything for me is not necessarily everything for someone else. So it all depends on what we're talking about. But I don't think that people operate 100% in that way. I don't think they possibly could without having something, wrong with them, or being raised in a basement or something.
And we do it with morality too. The American moral psychologist Joshua Green says we see the world in moral colors, and that can make it hard for us to understand when other people see the world in different colors.
It all depends.
So this ability for us to kind of project things onto the world and see them as being objective can make morality feel fixed.
Okay, if you have absolutely no ability to either empathize, put yourself into someone else's shoes, imagine a possibility outside of your own perspective, then I suppose, sure, you could be living in some kind of stagnant, stalwart, black and white reality. I don't think most people actually do that or can do that if they're by just simply living amongst other people, even in your own family. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. See, pineapple does belong on pizza. Only if it's Hawaiian pizza and only if it's Canadian bacon. Otherwise, I don't want it there. Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. I grew up with, the only time I ever had pineapple on pizza was when it was Hawaiian pizza with Canadian bacon. Why do they call it Hawaiian pizza at that point? I don't know, but that's just the way it is. Canadian bacon and pineapple on pizza. That's it. I'm fine with that. Those flavors make sense to me. Anything beyond that, it's iffy. Not necessarily a no-go, but it's iffy.
It's black and white. It's unchanging. It's just right or wrong. There's something else I learned from studying the evolution of our species in different societies. Is that's actually not how morality works.
Oh, really?
You can think of the rules that people live by in different societies as being like a toolkit. And there are different tools to solve different social problems. How do you prevent lying? How do you prevent cheating? How do you prevent bullies?
I love how he's talking about how do you prevent these bad things. And up on the screen, he's got a hammer, a pair of pliers, some snips, and a screwdriver. And now, of course, he says tools. And the first thing I think of is torture. What does that say about me? I think I might have been watching Goodfellas, that one. No, it's not Goodfellas, a Casino. You ever see Casino? You know, the Charlie M. Yeah, if you've seen Casino, you know what I'm talking about. Ugh.
From preying on the weak. And there are different tools for different jobs. It's really similar to how animals have different tools for different jobs as well, depending on whether you eat nuts or seeds or insects or fruit.
Okay, but what are those different tools based on? Is it evolution? Is it biological? Or is it sociological? Is it, cultural history? Is it religion? Yeah, different parts of the world and different societies. Yeah, they're different. When he says evolution, I keep thinking, because he was referring to specifically the brains and the bodies and the opposable thumbs, I keep thinking he's referring specifically to biology. And that's not how that works. Okay, if he's talking about sociology and things like that, okay, but he keeps saying evolution. I know, it keeps catching my brain.
Got a different beak.
Yeah.
And as the environment changes, those organisms change. They have different tools for the job. As societies change,
Yes.
they use different tools as well.
Yes, our evolving legal structure, what's right, what's wrong. Yes, okay, yes. Societies evolve similar to a biology. Yes, okay, I'll just go with it.
So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Imagine you're living among the Kung people in the Kalahari
Mm-hmm.
around about 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in a small band of maybe 20 to 30 individuals, just a few extended families. Everyone has their role, hunting, gathering, raising the young to keep the band going.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do if one of the members of your band becomes a troublemaker? What if they become a bully? What if they turn violent? What if that bully murders your sibling?
Okay, well, you escalated the situation all the way up to the top of the worst, possible general crimes amongst people. But I don't know. What do they do? Is this gonna go to a restorative justice territory? Ooh.
How do you respond?
Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna guess because I have no idea what this tribe of people does. But I'm gonna guess that he's gonna tell us that they bring the wrongdoer and the victimized together, and they sit around and they come to some sort of accord one to another and move on with their lives. Something like that. I'm happy to be wrong, but I'm guessing he wouldn't bring up this example unless it was drastically in contrast to what, most of Western civilization does.
How do you punish them?
I don't know.
How do you prevent that kind of behavior? How do you prevent others from thinking they can get away with it?
I don't know.
So one of the tools that the Kung used, in their moral toolkit, was revenge. The idea that if you harm me, I'm entitled to harm you in return.
Okay, eye for an eye.
And the threat of revenge was very effective at keeping the peace.
Yes.
That's why among the Kung, if someone murders a sibling, it's not just permitted, it's a moral duty for you to kill the murderer.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I was wrong. They go for eye for an eye. Yeah, that would discourage you from doing something else if you get caught. Yeah.
And we can see that different societies have talked about revenge in different ways.
Yeah, and of course that has nothing similar to the death penalty in America. So I mean, now, admittedly, such a thing would not be undertaken by the family of the killer, or sorry, the family of the victim, pardon me. But it's kind of the same, separating, the individual with the society, obviously.
We see from a lot of the great histories, like the stories like the Iliad, the Mahabharata from Beowulf, great stories that involve revenge.
Mhm.
We can see in the Old Testament, Moses is told it's okay to take an eye for an eye and
Yep.
a tooth for a tooth.
Yeah.
But as societies grew,
Mhm.
as they changed,
Mhm.
as more people were interacting, revenge started to cause more trouble than it was worth.
Well, revenge without consideration. Yes. Vengeance without due process. Yes. And again, vengeance can be taken in many different ways, whether we're talking imprisonment or the death penalty. So, yeah, we added a buffer to ensure that people were treated as much as humanly possible fairly, and that accusation alone was not enough to harm someone.
It starts triggering feuds that could last for generations, and many people can end up being harmed. And so the societies change.
Yes.
This is why in the New Testament we're told to turn the other cheek.
Uh,
And in the modern world, we have the resources to outsource punishment to an entire class of specialists. It's their job to handle this. And when we can trust the law, it's a better solution than taking justice into our own hands.
yeah.
So this is moral evolution.
Yeah.
This is how, like organisms, societies adapt to changing circumstances. The catch is it goes really, really slowly.
The catch is, the benefit is that it goes slowly. Some things need to be taken into consideration over time, gradual. Rush to judgment on things is rarely a smart way to go. But okay, yes, society evolves, laws change, perspectives change over time. Yes. That's why a kid growing up today is going to have at their fingertips a far different notion of morality about certain things than a kid that grew up 60 years ago in the same place in the same country. It depends on the country, of course, but specifically in America, yeah. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, moral absolutes, there can be some, but they are moderated by the people you live with.
Our black and white thinking can put a brake on this type of moral evolution.
It hasn't, though. Has it? You just got through telling us that our moral codes, what's right, what is wrong, has changed over time, which means that we do not inherently and only think in black and white terms. We have the capacity to consider other alternatives. You just told us this. And we still do. That's why gay marriage is legal in America now, and 15 years ago, it really wasn't. So, actually, no, it's more than that now, isn't it? I forget. When did Anyway, within my lifetime, it went from being not a legal thing to a legal thing. And that is a relatively short period of time, my lifetime to now. So where are we going with this? What are you trying to tell us? Did he just contradict himself?
Can put a brake on moral progress. That wasn't such a big deal 10,000 years ago because societies changed very slowly back then. You could go multiple generations without needing to update your moral toolkit. Today, it's a big problem.
It all depends on what you're talking about.
Because our world is changing faster than ever before.
No, it isn't. It's all the same stuff. There's just more exposure one to another. That's okay. And I know I might be off base here, and I'm happy to have somebody argue with me, but I think the fundamentals of society, of the human experience, and everything else is no different now than it was 50 years ago. It's just that everything is hyped up. But we all end up, at the end of the day, back where we started, having to figure out how to live our lives, how to treat one another as well as we can or as well as we want to, how to make a living, how to raise a family, how to afford a home. the same mechanisms that were true for my parents are true for me today. The noise of the internet makes it all seem like it's all at once, but it's nothing. It's not all that different. I don't know that I agree with that. You know, is living a life today different than 50 years ago? Yes. Was that true for my parents as well? Yes. And the generation before them? Yes. But we're all stuck with the same questions and problems that our forefathers had, and they just keep getting refined a little bit. And are they challenged by current technology and current events? Yes. Just like every generation before us.
We have new problems that are emerging, like around artificial intelligence.
Yeah, automation. God. John Henry.
We've never faced before.
Uh-huh.
We need a new moral toolkit. The other thing that I learned is that there are many moral problems that don't have a single answer, that it's going to work in all circumstances.
You just discovered this? What? You just talked about how humans have evolved societally and legally over generations. Of course, there's no one-size-fits-all answer to every moral conundrum. What are we doing here? Am I just irritated for the sake of being irritated right now, or is he really just wandering around a point?
Like how to punish wrongdoing, whether you should have free speech if it allows people to say harmful things, whether people should be allowed to take their own lives when...
Boy, yeah, and none of these questions have ever come up any time in all of our history. Boy, oh boy. Golly gee whiz, Batman. I've never thought of those things. Certainly, Socrates didn't think about, well, should I take my own life? No, he never thought about that. Should you be allowed to say something if it makes somebody else feel bad? Oh, we haven't talked about that either. Oh my gosh. Yeah, these fundamental questions have just never come up before. Only now are we considering them. Okay. Benevolent condescension. I finally get to the bingo card. Okay. This is unlike most other TED Talks. So yeah, I don't know how many of these circles we're going to circle, or squares we're going to circle, but at least I got two now: benevolent condescension and free space, because I'm feeling talked down to right now.
And they're old or they're sick. There's no single answer to those questions that's going to work in every circumstance. On the other side, there are many moral questions that have lots of answers. Like think about one of the core questions at the heart of ethics: how to live a good life.
Okay. Do tell.
There might be more than one.
Wait. Let's back up a second here. I feel like I just heard something, but I want to make sure.
Like how to punish wrongdoing, whether you should have free speech if it allows people to say harmful things, whether people should be allowed to take their own lives when they're old or they're sick. There's no single answer to those questions that's going to work in every circumstance.
Okay, so all of those things possess the possibility of a gradient answer. Okay, all of those things. There might be wiggle room. There's nuance, okay?
On the other side, there are many moral questions that have lots of answers.
There are lots of answers for those other things. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. What you heard was your spirit breaking. I just want to make sure that I understand what he's saying here, because I apologize. I'm going to do this one more time. I want to make sure I didn't just, my brain hasn't broken here.
There are many moral problems.
There are many moral problems
that don't have a single answer.
That don't have a single answer.
That's going to work in all circumstances.
That's going to work in all circumstances.
Like how to punish wrongdoing, whether you should have free speech if it allows people to say harmful things, whether people should be allowed to take their own lives when they're old or they're sick. There's no single answer to those questions that's going to work in every circumstance.
There's no single answer that's going to work in every circumstance for those examples. There are many possible answers. That some may work for some and not for others. Yes.
On the other side, there are many moral questions that have lots of answers.
But you just, okay, before I hit the WTF button, is anybody else now rhetorically snapped in half by that transition? Okay, I when it comes to philosophy and economics and a whole bunch of other broad, abstract concepts that are beyond my ken, I just want to make sure. Am I off base here? Because I'm about to hit the WTF button, but I want to make sure that I'm not just all alone here. I want to allow for the possibility that I might be wrong. Chat, did he just contradict himself like in such a way that the sound barrier was just broken? Or am I off base? Okay. If you think I'm correct that he just completely snapped himself in half, put a 1 in the chat. If you think I'm off base, put a 2. Okay. And I'm serious. I'm not asking for a joke. I don't want it just for the WTF button. I honestly want to know and have some perspective here on if I just completely lost it. Okay. So be honest with me. Brutally honest. Okay. Lexi Mads. Well, not see. Lexi Mads says I'm off base. Okay. Nothing to see here says didn't contradict. You just said the same thing in 2 different ways. No, but he said on the other side, as though it's in opposition. Okay. I'm gonna let him go through his other side thing.
Like, think about one of the core questions at the heart of ethics, how to live a good life.
And there's not many answers that won't work for everyone in that question.
There might be more than one.
There is
valid answer.
Just as there's more than one valid answer depending on what you're coming at the situation from in the other question. What the...
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, there may be more than one answer. Yes.
To that question.
Yeah.
So morality is not black and white.
We know it's not black. Who ever said that morality was black and white? Are we just proceeding from a false premise here?
It is flexible. It can evolve.
Of course it can evolve. Of course it's flexible. If you actually followed the rules of the Bible, you'd be put in prison these days. If my daughter has sex before marriage, what size stone shall I use to kill her? What? Who said it was all black and white? Who? You're a philosophy professor. Your very existence means it's not black and white, because if you're considering things, that means there's something to consider. If everything was black and white, there wouldn't be a need for you. What are we even talking about?
What we need to do is change the way we think about right and wrong.
What the, how? Like away from the gradient? Towards black and white? What are you saying?
So here's how I think we should think about morality.
Okay, well, hell, I've waited 11 minutes of a 12-minute presentation for this. Please get on with it.
The world is changing faster than ever before.
It's not changing. It's just we have more exposure to every bit of minutia of everybody's life. The same problems persist, one to another, the same considerations. I mean, I'll grant you this. I will grant you this part at least. Okay. The exchange of ideas and opinions has been sped up to a pace not before seen in human history. I will give you that. And that in and of itself might change things and people's minds at a faster pace than previously. But I think we're all going to reach a point of equilibrium, and it's all going to be the same routine, same song and dance, just with a different medium by which we communicate. That's all. I mean, is it effectively or proportionally any different than when the telephone became a thing or television? It's just the next step up. But okay, all right, the world's changing at faster. The world has changed.
We are encountering greater diversity than ever before.
Or making up diversities where they didn't exist before, but hey, what am I to say?
We're interacting with people from different cultures, different religions, different moral backgrounds.
Which never happened previously, but yes, accessibility is a thing.
People are commingling and new problems are emerging.
Yeah. And?
So we need to adapt quickly. The first thing I'd suggest is forgive yourself and forgive everyone else for being basically primates wearing pants using smartphones, right? We're all evolved. We all carry the baggage of our ancestors. We've got to forgive ourselves and others for feeling the same certainty that we feel, but we've got to push back against that certainty.
Yes. Yes, we all need to learn the art of allowing for the possibility that we may be incorrect. Yes. Absolute and total moral certitude about everything at all times with no ability to either reconsider or weigh someone else's opinion or entertain another opinion without necessarily accepting it. Yes, these are all skills that would be beneficial for everyone to learn, just as they have been since time immemorial. But okay, how should we think about this differently? How is that different? Why does your job exist if evaluating moral questions wasn't previously a thing that we do? What are we talking about?
We've got to examine our own moral beliefs.
That's what philosophy class is for. That's what... Dear Christ.
The things that we inherited from our parents, from our community.
Oh, yeah. Gee, did I ever have that time in my life where I was thinking my parents were completely wrong about everything and I knew better, and then I grew up and found out that they were a hell of a lot more right than I gave them credit for? Yeah, that's never happened before. Oh, only now.
We've got to realize that those tools from the past may not be the right tools for the future.
Oh, you don't say. Gosh, is that why we change laws? Is that why, like, just as an example, the Civil Rights Act was a thing? Is that why we have a constitution that allows for changes in this country? I know we're in Australia in this particular talk here, but I'm pretty sure that Australia has a constitution that allows for amendments. Yeah, no, what a great new idea. Who are you? Did you just step out of the Stone Age yourself?
We need to work to listen to others. There are voices that we can hear now that have been silenced for most of history.
Okay, such as?
We need to open up. We need to think about the problems that we face today and engage with those problems and find new solutions.
Yes. Yes, we should all allow for the possibility that we could be wrong. Yes. How is this a new way to think about morality?
We need to change the way we think about morality.
But you haven't given us anything different than what we have been doing and struggling with as a species since we could first start writing things down and thinking about things beyond ourselves. We would not be here if we hadn't already mastered those arts as a society, as a civilization, as a species in one way, shape, or form. Now, drill down to every individual person and your mileage is going to vary. But if we hadn't been doing those things, why does your position in life exist?
Because the really important thing to remember is that moral evolution is possible. Thank you very much.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That was... Okay. That was the most nothing. And I'm not talking about like a whiteout on the bingo card. But, okay. Imagine, if you will, the most extreme in your mind example. Something. Just imagine something that coincides with the word substantive, irate bear. And now imagine the 180-degree opposite of that thing. That is what we just watched. A whole lot of nothing. Holy cats. I want my money back. I want my money. No, I want this hour back, whatever it is now. Yeah. All right. If anybody sees this in Australia, Peter Silac 313 and others, and you ever go to a college, it's possible. You decide to take a philosophy class and you see this guy's teaching the class, I fervently discourage you from taking that class, unless you want an easy A, I suppose, which might be by itself. But you weigh the morality of that decision on your own. But my advice would be stay away from this guy, because if in 12 minutes he promises us something and returns zippo, I really have to question his credentials as a philosopher. Oh my gosh. That entire talk makes something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. That entire talk was a non sequitur. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, let me pull out the bingo card. Holy cats, anyway. Okay. I'm going to go over the card one more time on my own. And then if you have arguments for squares to be circled, make those afterwards. Plays victim. He never talked about himself directly. So at least I can't think of you could get very philosophical and abstract, I suppose. But I didn't hear him playing the victim. Leaves out vital context. Yeah, where is the question? What are we talking about? I don't know how else to put it. It was so abstract. It was so rotating back on itself. Weightless example. Every example he gave was weightless because there was no argument. There was nothing. Every example was absolutely pointless to the presentation because it didn't argue for, against, in support of, or otherwise of anything. Anecdote that probably never happened. He never gave us any anecdotes. He told about the tribe, and I have I don't know if the anecdote, the antisocial apes, because they had socialization. So, you know what? Was that a weightless example? I don't want to double dip. Okay, I'll leave that for now. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No. Now this guy was partaking olfactory of his own exhaust, if you know what I mean. Feminism? No. Although he did, at the beginning, he underlined something about women specifically. I forget exactly what it was. Childhood or family anecdote. He never talked about himself. Privilege? No. Sales pitch for product or service. Well, I'll tell you what, if this was a sales pitch for his services as a philosopher, he failed miserably. So, but otherwise, no, there wasn't any specific product or service mentioned. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. He alluded to unconscious bias in someone having a firm and unwavering position on things that didn't allow them to see beyond themselves. He alluded to that enough times that I'll give it. Patriarchy, no. Let's see. Wage gap, no. Mind reading assumes motives. Yeah, like I've never thought of these things before. Like humankind hasn't struggled with these things. Like morality isn't black and white, is somehow kind of a new concept or what? Okay. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I wish he had tried to label his quote unquote new way of thinking of morality. I wish he'd given it some kind of fancy label of his own. That'd make it so much more hilarious when it was an empty bag. Word salad. Yeah. I think that's inherent to this one. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh yeah, he did talk about diversity. Yes, he did say diversity. I apologize. I should have circled that at the time, but yeah, he did say diversity specifically. So there's that. Marginalized, marginalization. Yeah, voices that have not been heard, etc. So at least by implication, that is also on the board. So got that one. Contradicts own point or argument. Yeah. On the one hand, there's these things. On the other hand, here's the exact same situation. Yeah. I'd say yeah. That counts in my mind. Or actually, you can even go more, even better than that. We need to think of a new way of thinking about morality. And then he offers us the exact same way we've been thinking about morality since people could write things down. Systemic institutional. He talked about society. He talked about philosophy. He talked about religion. Again, in aggregate, in the abstract of nothing else, he did talk about systems and institutions, the legal system, etc. A list. Did he give us a formal list? No. He didn't say, like, I've got 3 things, or as far as I can recall. My brain may be broken. White supremacy. No, he never talked about race specifically. I mean, he talked about different peoples interacting with one another, but that doesn't lend itself to it. Collectivize his own demographic. Did he, I can't remember, did he say something like, we as philosophy teachers or something like that? I know he talked about himself being a philosophy teacher. I don't know if he collectivized himself. If someone else remembers him saying something to that effect, let me know. But anyway, that is the card as I have it. No bingos thus far, although we might get there. So if you have arguments for squares yet to be circled, please put them in the chat now. Please be sure to tag me in your argument so I can see it more clearly. I will scroll up in case I missed anything. In the meantime, Jason Smith says, a verbal nothing burger. You ain't kidding. Let's see. Tier Alexander, Prometheus in chains. Scribelight, no, you lose and get nothing. That is just a day that ends in Y for me. Lexi Mad says, I know what the problem is. Pardon me. He's Australia. He's Australia? All by himself? Oh my God. Wayne Brock. Yes, absolutely the most useless TED Talk I've ever witnessed. I want my time back. Well, okay. And as I have so many times in the past, but then in this one particularly, I apologize. I honestly thought this was going to be, obviously it'd be a departure from the usual content I look at when it comes to TEDx talks. Usually it's not philosophical as blatantly as this, right? It's usually on a specific subject, or maybe how someone wants to use blood to turn it into plastic, something like that, but not anything quite as, thoughtful, philosophical, broad scoped as this. I thought it'd be something different, something new, interesting way to look at stuff. And he just basically affirmed everything that I already think by telling me that somehow what I think is new or not common, or I mean, admittedly, allowing for the possibility you may be wrong when it comes to things you believe about the world, etc. That is not as common as I wish it was. I'll give you that, but okay. Lexi Mads, I know what the problem is. He's Australian, so everything is upside down. We must forgive him. Oh, is that what you meant? Did you hit enter too soon? Because he's Australia. I thought, wow, that's something else. Eric Peters, this doesn't even deserve a bingo card. It's a TEDx talk. It's a TEDx talk. Oh, I need to refresh this. There we go. Sorry, I didn't refresh the screen. I was so caught up in putting on my circles. I didn't refresh. Okay, that's where the card is at. I apologize. Let's see. Wayne Barack in Introduction to a High School Introduction to Philosophy class, maybe. Kinda, yeah. I just he could have summed an entire talk up in like 5 minutes. Like that would be like a preamble to a philosophy class. Hey, did you know that morality isn't black and white? Let's talk about that in this syllabus. Gulf City Johnny Blaze. Usually I have some argument, but not this time. It's possible that I missed something or that there's a good argument for another square to be circled. Tony Gift, is a teacher a new demographic or did you just invent it? Is a teacher a teacher? Well, I mean, like if he said we, usually has to come down to someone making a statement in the broad strokes about a demographic in which they fall into. So like we as philosophy teachers, if he said that, and I don't know if he did, I don't think he did, then you could make the argument that collectivizes his own demographic. He makes some kind of like broad claim about men or women or elsewise, maybe. But I don't think he did. I'm not sure. I don't believe so. I could be wrong. Bridget, nothing here either, Scribelight. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Wayne Barack again. And you don't share those dirty secret message deleted comments with the rest of us? Well, I don't delete comments on the videos unless it's like spam or a spam bot or something. Just as a note, I've said this before, sometimes people leave comments on my videos and then I'll get the alert and the stub of the comment. But then when I go to actually either respond to it, like it, or otherwise, it's gone. YouTube is doing that. I don't even get, 9 times out of 10, the comments that I see happen, but then don't see in the video, they're not even in the tab that allows me to see comments that YouTube withheld on the possibility it might be something I don't want to see there or whatever. They're just gone. As far as comments in the chat, if they're being deleted by the mods, I'm, trusting my mods to take care of things. So there you go. Let's see. Peter Silak, Hades 313 in the so fancy script. How did you manage that? I'm with Johnny Blaze. I have no arguments for this dude. I think I'm at my end on the bingo card. I can't think of anything else since he basically. Good night, mate. Basically, no. He basically just repeated himself 17 times over the course of 12 minutes and said nothing. So, yeah, I think we might be at the end of it. I don't imagine that I've got anything else to say. So if anybody else has anything else they'd like to say or promote or otherwise, please also take a look at the message pinned at the top of the chat box with the GoFundMes for Shady Grin and his kitten. And if you have the opportunity to take a look at those and be sure to donate if you can and want to, they both could use some help. But yeah, I think that might be it. It was a TEDx of nothing. And there's not much else to say except Keeverdam is the WTF police. As always, circle the whole card. You are correct. I need to circle the whole card. I should probably have hit WTF a couple of times over the course of that because, man, that was something else, wasn't it? Something else in the sense that there wasn't anything there. But yeah, I think I'm going to call it there, guys. Again, I apologize in the sense that this didn't turn out to be the deep thinking arena that I had hoped it would be. But if nothing else, his nonsense at least challenged me to have to assess what he was saying in relation to my layman's knowledge of the world. So maybe. Lexi Mads, I need help with my ear. It popped yesterday and it's been bugging me ever since. It popped? Like it's no longer plugged up? Or it is plugged up? And it's been bugging you ever since. Well, if you take a Q-tip and gently, very shallowly, sort of, do you get any blood back or anything? Is your hearing affected? Because then you might want to go see a GP and have it taken a look at. Other than that, couldn't tell you. But anyway, programming note, the Sunday stream, which I do on Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. I have a notion, because I've got a couple of videos in the queue here, to do a mini TEDx. And I mean mini in the sense that I've got a couple of videos that TEDx put out there in the last few days that are very short, like less than 10 minutes, and in one case, less than 5 minutes. Maybe I'll do a double feature of 2 TEDx's, or maybe something else will pop up, because heaven knows there are a lot of things that pop up in the world that get my interest that I want to look at. So we'll see. But anyway, I'll be on again Sunday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And as always, next Thursday at the usual time, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another installment of TED Excellence. So everyone, thank you for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everyone who donated, thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity, whether it was to me or to our friends up in the GoFundMes at the top of the chat box. I know I appreciate it, and I know that they do as well. Everyone, I hope you have a good rest of your week. I hope you have a good, thoughtful, philosophical, and pleasant weekend. And if you have a 3-day weekend, great. If you don't, my sympathies. And I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.